Welcome to Nale Yoga. I'm Ruthie Eisenberg, and I'm glad to be here with you today. Today, we have a very special guest joining us, Ravinder Taylor, a mind science researcher, interfaith minister, and master of merging the mystical with the measurable. For over 30 years, Ravinder has helped people break through deep emotional and psychological blocks using research based mind training and self empowerment tools. She's the president of Progressive Awareness Research, co author of over 200 personal development programs, and author of Mind Training, a book rooted in over 200 scientific studies and praised by university professors for its clarity and impact. Ravinder brings an extraordinary synthesis of experience, from a background in microbiology and hypnotherapy to decades of working with the unconscious mind. And today we'll explore how her work intersects with the kind of deep states we access through Yoga Nidra, deep rest. So, whether you're here for rest, rewiring, or revelation, this is a conversation that you do not want to miss. First of all, Ravinder, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Ruthie. I'm very much looking forward to the interview. And I really appreciate the fact that you're pronouncing my name totally perfectly,
Okay,
Indian
good.
style.
Yes.
So thank you.
Good. Well, why don't we get started? I know we have some common grounds in our interest in the overlap between science and spirituality. So, why don't we just get started with that? And I'm curious to hear from you. What does the intersection between science and spirituality mean to you?
Thanks, Ruthie. That is really important to me. My work is very much science-based. Mind training, I cite around 200 independent scientific studies in that. So it is very science-based, but personally, it's the spiritual life that interests me even more. And what I've discovered is I don't believe that it's possible to really be a spiritual being without having an idea of the teachings that I have in mind training. And I suppose that comes down to how you define spirituality. For some people, living a spiritual life is just about being kind, being mindful, appreciating the planet, that kind of stuff. And that's fine. That's just not the direction that I want, because for me, I think spirituality is a search for the truth. And I don't believe in personal truths. I believe in personal experiences. Feelings should be validated. You have a right to your feelings, you have a right to your opinions. But when it comes to truth, you know, the very core of religions is all about a search for the truth. I don't follow organized religions because I think truths can get buried in rituals and rules and expectations. Um, but mind training is about finding out who you are, that is separate from all the influences that have created the surface version of you. It's about discovering your true core. It's about expressing your highest best. So having a searching for that kind of truth, and then yeah, it definitely includes the mindfulness, the meditation, the gratitude, the awe, the forgiveness. They're all huge elements to it, but it also comes down to, why do I believe what I believe? What experiences have I had in the past that have pushed me this way? How is my subconscious controlling me? And it controls you in so many ways. You look at the arguments about free will. Some of the greatest minds in the world will tell you adamantly free will doesn't exist. Well, I have, a slightly different bent on that, but it is still valid to talk about, the influence of our genes and the influence of past experiences. Our past experiences, all of that information is what our subconscious minds are programmed with, and we make most of our choices on a subconscious level. So you have to understand how the information gets in there in order to find out, is that information still valid?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
it's a really big picture, but for me, yes, to sum it up, you cannot be truly spiritual in the way that I view it without
Mm-hmm.
also taking an interest in how your mind works.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. And I I like, well, it sounds like you're doing some really deep work, but I also like how you're framing it as a search for the truth. Search implies that there's a process involved. And do you believe that you ever find it? Or is it something that is just a continuous search and there's no end to this process?
I definitely think it's continuous. It's a journey. But if you look at life itself, how many times have we heard, life is a journey, not a destination. It's all
Mm-hmm.
about growing more and developing more. When you look at religions, one of the reasons why I'm not into formalized religion is because to me, they put God in a box. They define God, and that limits it. And I think that the best religions will say that you can't define you can't define God, him, however you want to refer to him. So it's a constant journey. We have limited minds. How can a limited mind comprehend the infinite? Um,
Right.
so it is all about growing more, becoming the best versions of ourselves, contributing to life itself because we are part of everybody else's experience as well. Um, and so I definitely believe in being the change that you want to see in the world. I think we are co-creators. And again, the best scientists will tell you the same thing. I was reading Lisa Feldman Barrett's book on emotions, and she was talking about how emotions are linked between people. Somebody else smiles at you, and that causes you to feel happy. There are links
Mm-hmm.
there. You look at Eagleman's work, his work can sound so much like science fiction. Some of the things that he's developing, but once again, you have this linkage between other people. So I think that is incredibly spiritual. I don't know what either of them think about spirituality or religion. It doesn't really matter. But to me, I see those connections and I think that is beautiful. And I think we have a responsibility in the world to have our best contribution.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, yes. We're all like one interconnected web. And I'm curious if you could actually share a little bit about your personal journey and your story of how you evolved to be doing the work that you're doing today, and really to be explorer of searching for spiritual truth, and also coming from a very grounded scientific perspective.
I think I was just born a spiritual person, Ruthie. I can
Mm-hmm.
remember back when I was 5, 7, thinking about some of the spiritual questions, and I knew back then that the answer lay within. So you reach a point where all the education, the study, whatever, doesn't mean anything until until you make that internal connection with yourself. So I've always known that the answer lays within. But you're right, my upbringing was my early education was very science based. I come from an Indian family, like most Asian people. Children are brought up to think of careers for a doctor, a lawyer, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was interested in biology. I followed that path. I wasn't good enough to go to medical school, but I did go to university and get a degree in microbiology, and I was working in a path lab, and I was very, very science based. But then one day there was a visiting lecturer. It was sponsored by the hospital that I worked in, and this lecturer was talking about hypnosis and hypnotherapy. Up until that point, I didn't take hypnosis seriously at all. It was, something people did on stage and other people looked silly and everybody laughed, and that was all hypnosis was to me. But this was being sponsored by the hospital, so that gave it a quasi endorsement. So I went. The auditorium was large. It was filled with, doctors, nurses, lab technicians. Um, my lab, there were around 70 people that worked in my lab, and a large number of them attended. But because the auditorium was so large, they were sprinkled out throughout the entire auditorium.
Mm-hmm.
Coincidentally, when he wanted to demonstrate some certain techniques, he happened to pick on three people from my lab. So I knew from that that they weren't shills. And so I saw Martin experienced analgesia. The hypnotherapist stuck a pin in his arm and he felt no pain whatsoever. And he very proudly um, had this pin on the lab counter the following day so we could all see the pin that had been stuck in his arm and he hadn't reacted at all. Dawn
Mm-hmm.
forgot the number six, I believe it was. So she was told to count up and down from one to 10 and back, and she just totally skipped the number six. So I
Mm.
knew the technique was real. But what
Yeah.
really appealed to me was a story he shared about a woman who had a pain in her arm. She had had a pain in her arm for years, decade or so. She had seen all the doctors, all the specialists. They hadn't been able to help her. So as a last resort, she went to this hypnotherapist. Now, this all happened around 40 years ago, so some of my details may not be 100%, but the basic story remains very, very constant. She saw the hypnotherapist. Under hypnosis, she remembered a traumatic event. It was an emotional event. Something in the past had really upset her, and but she had grown on from that. She had dismissed it, forgotten about it. Um, the following day, she called the hypnotherapist back and said that the pain had gone. The pain had actually gone immediately, but she hadn't believed it. So she had waited just to make sure. So I was fascinated by the idea that something in the past could have such a definite influence on our present experience. As a result of this lecture, I underwent hypnotherapy myself and I learned some fascinating techniques like hypnotic drawing, hypnotic writing. As a result of all of that, I went and did a 3-year course in hypnosis and psychotherapy. That
Mm-hmm.
was when I met my husband, who is an expert on pre-conscious learning. My husband is Eldon Taylor. He's
Mm-hmm.
an expert in this area. We met, we got married, and so I have spent the last 35 plus years deeply buried in researching ways to become the best versions of ourselves. So looking at the tools and techniques that are available out there. One of the things that I've discovered, Ruthie, is there is so much research going on to discover why we do what we do. And who do you think makes most use of that research? It's going
Hmm.
to be
Big
the
big pharma.
politicians, the yeah, big pharma, the advertisers, the media, they're using it. They're going to grab
Mm,
everything. So, just
interesting.
for example, they have discovered that if you put a bottle of hand sanitizer on the table and ask someone to fill out a questionnaire to indicate their political leanings, they will skew further to the right than they
Oh,
would if that
interesting.
bottle of hand sanitizer wasn't there. And there are lots of these little things that they have discovered. So I will tell people now, if you go to vote and you're going into the booth to vote, if you smell bleach, be suspicious. Be
Hmm.
suspicious. It could well be a tactic. It may
Interesting.
not be, but you want to
Yeah.
pay attention. Or so if there's all this research going on out there, can we use the research ourselves both to negate that kind of influence? I mean, why should we buy something we really don't want just because they know the key words that are going to trigger us into acting? So you want to be able to protect yourself from that stuff, but then there is all
Hmm.
the research simply improve your life, to eliminate self-sabotaging behaviors, to increase prosperity, to have better relationships, to be more successful in your career, just across the board, to live longer. The science is out there. Why not look at all of that and say, how can I become the best version of myself? How can I maximize my own life experience?
Yeah, that's really fascinating what you're sharing about hypnosis. And what this brings up for me is connecting it with yoga, the practice of Yoga Nidra, because this practice also, it gets underneath the conscious mind too, and it puts you in a lightly altered state of consciousness. So you're still in control. You're, between alpha and theta, maybe delta at some point, brain waves. Um, but I'm curious about hypnosis, and I know that there's some overlap and similarities between Yoga Nidra and hypnosis, but there's also some key differences in maybe in the mechanisms by which they work. So I'm wondering if we could do a little like compare and contrast, because I'm not an expert in hypnosis, but I hear very good reviews of it. So I'm curious with hypnosis, like what is the mechanism by which it works, in which it heals? How does it actually change the person's mind?
I actually have an entire chapter in mind training on hypnosis, mindfulness, and meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they're all the same,
Mm-hmm.
because they're all designed to reduce brainwave activity, to slow everything down. And a good analogy that an analogy that I like, whether it's good or not, but it's just a favorite one of mine, is when you think of brainwave activity as a fence. And the tighter the fencing is, the less that can actually get through that. When you slow down brainwave activity, you open up the spaces there. You get access to your subconscious mind from a spiritual perspective. Perhaps you get access to higher information. That it's up to you to define how you call that. But you do open up avenues for more information to come in. The processes for all of these are going to be very similar. In hypnosis, they will call it progressive relaxation.
Mm-hmm.
So you feel the relaxation spreading through your body. Maybe you count yourself down. In yoga, again, you can use the progressive relaxation using the slow breathing. That's a very common one. Using visualization is very
Mm-hmm.
common for both hypnosis. If that's administered by someone else, or you're using self hypnosis, the techniques are very similar. So to me, the difference really lies in the goal, the goal of it,
Mm-hmm.
and the type of imagery that a person uses. So perhaps you're having hypnotherapy to lose weight. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very down to earth kind of desire. And in
Mm-hmm.
meditation, doing that to open yourself up to higher information, to a higher power. So it just depends on what the goal is. That is really the only difference between them. There's going to be differences in techniques. I When I started off with all of this, I much preferred just count me down. I don't need
Okay.
imagery. I'm not very good at picturing stuff. I was very science based, very down to earth, count me down, and I totally got going deeper and deeper into relaxation. I could feel myself sinking deeper and deeper. And with hypnosis, especially if you have a hypnotherapist guiding you down, their voice, they will have a calm, slow voice. But if you're doing yoga and you've got someone leading you in that, they're going to have that slow, soothing voice as well. But if you're doing it
Mm-hmm.
just to yourself, you do the same thing. You slow it down. You slow
Mm.
down your breathing. You absorb the relaxation. You release the stress. The process is exactly the same in both of them. Um, it just depends on what kind of visualization you want and what the goal is for the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, one of the things, okay, so one of the things that I would like to clarify about hypnosis is um, in when a person is in a hypnotic state, are they still in control? Like if somebody else is doing the hypnosis to you, would you still be in control over your own mind, or are you in a state that you're so suggestible at that point that you don't really have much of a say of what happens in your own mind. You just kind of go with the process and are very receptive to the other person's influence.
Hypnosis is a state of hypersuggestibility. So you're absolutely correct there. One of the things you want to realize, though, Ruthie, is hypnosis is just this reduced brainwave activity. Everything is working slower, and you go into a hypnotic state when you're watching television. They've actually
Oh
looked
yeah.
at that, and even when they bribed the subjects, they were looking at children, I believe, but even when they bribed the children to stay more alert, they were unable to when you're watching television. So you think about all the commercials that used to be on TV and the commercials that are now coming back. I was watching a movie on Amazon Prime yesterday, and it had commercials in it,
Huh.
even though I pay for Amazon Prime, so I pay not to have the commercials, but they're still going to say that there are
Mm,
limited commercials because you're in that state. But when
interesting.
it comes to normal hypnotherapy, I'm going to, you know, equivocate some there, but if you go to see a hypnotherapist, you're definitely aware of it still. And if they suggest something that really goes against your beliefs, you're going to reject it. That's going to bring you out of hypnosis.
Mm, okay.
Those alerts are in play still. That's not to say, and the government has researched some of these techniques. That's not to say, with the right concoction of drugs and manipulation and hypnosis and extended programming, that it's not possible to override your natural desires. But that's not going to happen, when you just visit a hypnotherapist because you've got a habit that you're trying to break or you're trying to uncover old information. So no,
Mm-hmm.
you're definitely control. The way I do it, you see, I'm aware of some of the tools and techniques to bypass some of those conscious guards that we have up in place. My approach to hypnosis is, if I'm going to do it on somebody, I want to help that person achieve what it is that they're trying to do. I'm not trying to trick someone or whatever. So if they are going to be super resistive to me, that's their choice. If they don't want the benefits from it, that's their choice. I'm not interested in proving the techniques
Mm-hmm.
work. I'm interested in helping someone break through barriers in their lives.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the answer to your question is complicated. It is possible to influence someone against their will, but it takes a great deal more than your regular hypnotherapist is going to have access to.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, thanks for explaining that. And it's also really good to hear that, that your brain has these natural, maybe natural gatekeeping or these natural stop points where if something is feeling unsafe or out of alignment, that we can just trust that your brain will get you out of that hypnotic state and take care of it. I've actually had this happen a few times when I've done meditations and guided meditations, and usually I'm very careful with choosing which meditations to do. But a few times I found these meditations on Insight Timer that I was just curious about, and in the middle of the meditation, you get into this very deep, very relaxed state. Like I know I'm already past alpha and already in theta. And in the middle of the meditation, there were just some things that the guide was saying that were just really like not aligning with, just didn't sound right to the Jewish part of my soul, and it happened exactly how you were saying. Like I just could not be present for that meditation, and my mind, I was still in that state where I couldn't quite get out of it and back to like normal waking state. Um, but I was definitely not so deep in the meditation that I was letting it take over me. I was able to maintain that boundary while still like partially staying in that meditation. It was a very strange experience, but it's a good reminder that we can trust our own internal compass to protect ourselves. And and
It is,
yeah.
it is, but it is a double-edged sword, Ruthie. Yes, when it comes to hypnosis, you certainly have the ability, you have those internal alerts. But
Mm-hmm.
a great deal of, I'm thinking here outside of hypnosis, I'm looking at positive affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you say to yourself, I am good, what
Yeah.
type of response do you get? For
Mm-hmm.
me, the response that I get to an affirmation like that is, what does good mean?
Mm-hmm.
Am I really being as good as I can be? Just because everybody else sets the bar at this point, is that really good? And you can go all the way back to um, black slavery. That was very
Mm-hmm.
much the norm. People thought
Mm-hmm.
that they were being good. And we know today that's absolutely not. So I look at everything today a little bit from that perspective. I was on an interview just the other day, and the host was gay, and I had talked
Mm-hmm.
about some of the racial discrimination I had experienced as a child, and the fact that me and my friends didn't talk about it. We never acknowledged some of the things that went on that were so normal. It was only recent years when I've spoken to them and they said, yeah, people used to throw stones at me, people would spit at me, blah, 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 blah. And the host that I was talking to, as I said, he was gay, and he recounted an experience when he was in a casino in Las Vegas, and this person had spat at him. The security people jumped in, took this other person out. And this happened 20 years ago. It actually
Mm-hmm.
felt good that the security people did jump in so quickly. But
Yeah.
some of these biases, and then I confessed to him, um, even though I experienced racial discrimination, it was constantly around me. The fact that the way I did things wasn't the best way. It was inferior. So no
Mm-hmm.
wonder I grew up as a young child. I was full of inadequacies and insecurities. Um, But speaking to this host, I said to him, the other thing that I remembered was, as a child, anti-gay sentiment was so common. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so there I was, was experiencing discrimination myself, but I wasn't speaking up about it when I heard it aimed at a different group. And we have this herd mentality. We want to be approved of. And once again, this goes all the way back to, you cannot be a spiritual person without examining these kinds of issues. Um, because today, as a result of everything I have learned, as a result of being oblivious to what is really good, I now pay
Mm-hmm.
a great deal of attention to what else is there out there that I'm missing? What other what other attitudes am I holding? It's very easy for the spiritual person to get on their high horse. I've got everything together. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
nice person.
Yeah,
Are
defensive
you?
spirituality.
You have to think about this. But coming all the way back to the positive affirmations and the double-edged sword and the that inner guide of ours,
Mm-hmm.
a great deal, we have a negativity bias. So, in all the experiences we have in life, the ones that we are going to remember the most are those that were negative, those things that hurt us. So, if you go up for an employment review and your employer tells you 9 good things about you and 1 bad thing, you're going to fixate on that bad thing. So, you look
Mm-hmm.
at all of your life experiences, everything is stored in the subconscious mind. Um, they've actually done research that shows that before you make a choice, there is activity in the subconscious mind. In fact, technicians looking at fMRI can predict up to 7 seconds before you make a choice what choice you're going to make. Now, they're looking at simple choices like, do I press the button with my right hand or my left hand? But the technician can predict what that choice is going to be. And the choices are coming from your subconscious mind and all of that programming. So today you can say, I want to be successful. At some point, to be successful, you're going to have to do public speaking. There was not that long ago, Ruthie, I was paranoid about public speaking. I was petrified. I was phobic about it. Doing an interview like this, it wouldn't happen. Wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
happen at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is that these fears, these phobias, these things that prevent us from achieving our goals, they are coming from the subconscious mind. They are things that we have forgotten about. So the subconscious mind appears to be sabotaging our goals and our dreams. Because you can't be successful without doing public speaking. And if I'm phobic about public speaking and that fear comes from my subconscious mind, well, that's definitely sabotaging any career development and that I want. So it is a double-edged sword, that inner guide can steer you wrong just as often as it can steer you right. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so one of the ways through that, your subconscious mind then is full of all of these negative beliefs. And one of the tools that I offer in mind training was something that my husband Eldon Taylor developed. That's the Inner Talk subliminal self-help technology. Now, it may be that you've heard about subliminal self-help programs and you don't believe in them, and there's all of this research, and I cover all of that, and I'm happy to go through that with you as well. But if you think about all of these negative beliefs in your subconscious mind that are preventing you from keeping to your diet, from building healthy relationships, from being the best parent that you can be. It's programming. How often do we vow not to parent the same way that our parents parented us, and then we find ourselves doing exactly the same thing? So with the inner talk subliminal self-help programs that we have, rather than the affirmations being delivered audibly, so you argue back against them with all your defense mechanisms and all of these other beliefs, it bypasses all of that and goes directly to your subconscious mind, and it primes how you speak to yourself. So think about it, Ruthie. If you're having a bad day, that inner chatter is going to go on the along the lines of, I hate my life, this sucks, I always fail, I can't do this, I just want to go home, I give up, I quit. That's going to be the kind of self-talk that you have. But if that self-talk is replaced with, I'm happy, I can do that, I can do this, life is good, I've got this, people like me. Is it possible to be depressed at the same time?
Yeah,
It's
it's a good
not.
way of
If,
framing it.
if that inner chatter says, I'm happy, I'm calm, I'm relaxed, you cannot be depressed. So that's a good way of describing how the inner talk subliminal technology works. Now, inner talk is a patented technology, so it's different to anything else out there. It's been researched by numerous independent researchers and universities, places like Stanford University, Bremen University, Colorado State University. They have all demonstrated that inner talk does prime your self talk depending on the subject matter. I think at Colorado State University, they were looking at depression. At Stanford University and Santa Barbara University, they were looking at exam anxiety. Um, so all of these different areas, they have found that it does prime your self-talk, and when your self-talk changes, then so does your life experience. So that is just
Mm-hmm.
one of the tools to deal with all of the negativity that we're holding in the long bag of our subconscious mind that is influencing everything we do. And while it thinks it's trying to protect us from further hurt, because that's what it's doing, it's not trying to sabotage us. So my phobia about public speaking, I believe, comes back to a school event. We put
Mm-hmm.
on a production. Again, I would have been 8, 9 years old. One of the other kids didn't come that day, so I was asked to do a double role. One of the roles I had was to hit two coconut shells together to make the sound of horse hooves. And then I had to pick up this other guy's role, and that was a narration. So I do the horse hooves, and then I have to quickly put them down so I can pick up this piece of paper that I have to read from. I must have looked a bit clumsy. The audience laughed. Now, me looking back at it now, I know the other parents weren't laughing at me. They weren't
Mm-hmm.
being mean to me. I probably looked really cute, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it was laughter that supported me, but that's not how I interpreted it at the time. I was
Mm-hmm.
embarrassed. So my
Mm-hmm.
subconscious mind took that memory, said I was embarrassed talking in front of people, and then found ways to get me out of any kind of public speaking. It was trying to protect me. And you can find examples like this across the board. So you're trying to lose weight, but you've had a bad day, and so you can't stop yourself reaching for that chocolate cake. Well, you look back when you were upset as a child. What did mom do? Bring you
Mm-hmm.
dessert, bring you ice cream, did something to soothe you. So you have paired in your mind, if I'm upset, I need external soothing of some kind. I have to have the chocolate cake. But the beauty of it, Ruthie, is once you see these connections, just like the story of the woman who had the pain in her arm, once she saw that that's where it came from, it can be like magic. Not always, but
Mm-hmm.
frequently the problem can just just disappear once you uncover it. And again, in mind training, I do provide other techniques for you to look back and discover where these problem areas are.
Hmm.
Sorry, that was a very long answer to a question of the double-sided, yeah, your
Yeah.
internal self will protect
Yeah.
you, but you want to get into the driver's seat of your own life. You don't want to leave it all to your subconscious mind. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. Yeah, that was really detailed, but I also appreciate all the examples and, all the different angles that you shared. Um, Gosh, I have so many questions for you right now. So, first of all, it's always amazes me how when we can connect the dots between cause and effect, things make sense. And I always say that people are not in their current situations by random chance. Where I am today, where you are today, is the result of a series of causes and effects. Nothing is random, and when we can connect those dots to identify the earlier causes and effects, the ones that are in the subterranean layers of the mind, then how cool is that? We can we go to the roots, but then we connect them back to the branches and the little twigs of everyday life. Um, I also really liked what you were saying about, the affirmations, right? And that we can reprogram our mind, but we have to be careful with how we do it. When we say an affirmation like I am good, right? What does that mean? It's such a lot of affirmations, they're vague and they're very broad. Like you explained, good could mean so many things to so many different people. So really defining that is so important. What does success mean to you? What does good enough mean to you? I have a lot of clients who really struggle with negative self-talk and just this constant feeling of this really core belief of I'm not good enough. And many of us have experienced like cultural discrimination histories, or traumas, or all kinds of different experiences that could or shaming, all kinds of experiences that could lead to these not good enough, or some of these unhelpful core beliefs. And for me to hear from you how very gently using the affirmations that resonate to the person can actually be very empowering and very helpful. It reminds me of in Yoga Nidra, the idea of planting a sankalpa, or in Hebrew, kavana, which is that it's like the intention, the resolve, that seed that we plant at the beginning of the practice. And at the end of the practice, we come back to it when the body and mind are relaxed. And then that seed can really start to irrigate, and we can actually start to not just say it cognitively, like I am good enough person, but really feel it and start to believe it with the whole body, mind, and soul. Like, yeah, I am good enough. I know I'm good enough. I feel it. It's not just a sentence. Yeah, so I just wanted to share some of these reflections with you, and I don't know if you had any comments on them. Um,
I
yeah.
know, I agree. I like the analogy of planting
Hmm.
seeds. Um, I often talk about planting seeds with other
Hmm.
people. My version of spirituality isn't about changing other
Yeah.
people. That isn't my responsibility. But I do take seriously the responsibility of being the change that I want to see out in the world. So I will talk about these issues, but I can talk to other people, hopefully, I
Yeah.
try, in a more detached kind. We get attached to
Yeah.
ideas. We do. But if we can talk about these things in a more detached way, and I see that as planting seeds,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps the person hearing it isn't in the right place
Right.
today, but the seed is there.
That's right.
The seed is there. When they have another life experience, then they will start connecting their dots.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what good deeds are to me. It's about planting seeds. And then the way you described with the yoga practice of initiating that seed, and then by the end of it, you've created the internal environment where that seed can grow. That feels beautiful to me, and that feels very true to life, to some of my own experiences as well. It takes work to create the fertile soil
Mm-hmm.
for that seed to really grow. And it's all part of the journey. You can do that with some of these practices. They've looked at the effects of gratitude and awe and what that has on your well-being. So if you're feeling bad about yourself, go help somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
If you're feeling bad about yourself, then take a few moments to think of all the things that you are grateful for, all the good things in your life. If you're feeling bad, step outdoors, or not even outdoors. We tend to go to nature and the environment to find awe, but you can find awe right inside your house too. I find it awesome when my pets are asleep at my feet.
Mm-hmm.
There is something so beautiful, so soothing about your pet feeling so comfortable and secure. They're curled up at your feet, they're stretched out on the sofa, which they shouldn't be, but
They
they
are,
are.
anyways.
Um, but having the gratitude and the awe
Mm-hmm.
really has great benefits, and they've
Yes.
looked at that. So when you experience awe, you can end up feeling smaller yourself, and not smaller in a bad way, but smaller as in how huge this creation is,
Right.
um, and the small role that you play. So you're less likely to be egotistical.
Right. Yeah.
When you're experiencing awe, you can look at the good things that you've achieved in life and become aware that luck has played a huge role in it.
Mm-hmm.
Where you were born, who you were born to, the educational opportunities that you've had. There are lots of people out in the world that don't have those. There are people out there that are a lot more talented, way brighter, way more capable. They just not had the opportunity, and that can be very humbling. That gives you more things to be grateful for. One of the things that a friend of mine said to me once was that self-help and personal development, those are luxuries that the wealthy can afford. And in the United States, everyone listening to this podcast, however hard their lives may seem, they've still got a great deal to be grateful for. You could be grateful that you're not hungry. You could be grateful that you're not too hot, you're not too cold. You've got access to clean drinking water, that you've got friends, that you've got the freedom to
Mm-hmm.
speak up. There are places in the world, Ruthie, where you talk about your spirituality and you'd be in big trouble over it.
Oh, yeah, I know.
You
My
know,
family
you
comes from Soviet Russia, so we have some experience with that.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. You've got the history of the Jewish
Mm-hmm.
people, and some of the stuff that's going on right now. Things
Right.
things are things are pretty awful, so we can be grateful for what we have. And as I said, and I just repeat it over and over again, it's not about changing other people, it's about being the change that we want to see in the world. And when you look at the whole argument of free will, the aspect of everything has a precursor event, how you behave is going to be part of somebody else's experience, what
Absolutely.
what they see in you. So when you put these things into practice, when you discover greater inner peace yourself, you don't have to lecture somebody else about the benefits of yoga. hopefully they can see that on your face.
Mm-hmm.
They can see that in your demeanor. They can see that in your life experience. When they see your life changing, they can say, well, maybe I should try that too.
Mm-hmm.
And then you become part of the change. And there is a ripple effect
Mm-hmm.
that goes out there. That's how you become part of somebody else's journey.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I love everything that you're saying. Gratitude, it's such a simple but such a powerful practice. And, being the change that we want to see, like, yes, we are the only person we can take responsibility for ultimately. And we are this, interconnected web of human beings, of cells, of just existence on earth. Everything influences everything else, and yes, and what we do really does matter. It's a very empowering message that you're saying, Ravinder. One other question I was really curious in asking you is, so you've recovered from rheumatoid arthritis, right? Um, and I'm curious to
Yes.
hear about that because I know a lot of people, and I also have a lot of clients who struggle with medical ailments. And I'm curious what you have to say on that. There's, of course, a physical and a medical component. Oftentimes, there's also an emotional or an unconscious component that drives medical ailments. And I'm just curious to hear about your experience and specifically what has helped you in healing.
The mind's role in healing is absolutely
Mm-hmm.
fascinating. Some of the best evidence that you can get that the mind can heal you when everything, all the elements are in place correctly, is in the placebo
Oh,
effect.
yeah. Right.
That's where you get a positive benefit from taking a sugar pill. Some of the research that just really fascinated me as well that I included in mind training, when they look at the placebo effect, when you look at it globally, they found that, let me see if I can get this the right way around. When it comes to hypertension, the placebo response in Germany is particularly low. When it comes to gastric ulcers, the placebo response in Brazil is really low. It's higher in Europe and it's highest in Germany. So that tells you that everything out there, our enculturation, we're taking in information in such weird ways that it has this kind of effect. But the placebo effect definitely shows that your mind can heal you and it can hurt you. When it came to my rheumatoid arthritis, I put into practice a great deal of what I cover in mind training. But the three main elements there was, okay, take full responsibility. And once again, I'm not telling everybody else, I'm not saying that you created your illness, so therefore it's on you. I don't do that
Right.
kind of stuff. But when you take responsibility, you open up avenues of opportunity, you open up doors. So I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis about 3 months after the birth of my second child, my
Mm-hmm.
youngest. It was bad, it was ugly, it was scary. He was 3 months old and I was having problems changing his diaper because I couldn't hold his legs up with my left hand because my shoulder wouldn't work properly, so I couldn't put a diaper underneath. And when you're a mom, a new mom, I've got this responsibility for this child for 18 years and I'm struggling when he's 3 months old. It was horrible, it was scary, and I had lots of those kinds of stories. So I had lots of incentive to try to heal myself. And as I said, I have spent 35, 40 years researching these techniques. So I started with the responsibility. What am I getting out of it? Now, the beauty of this, Ruthie, is that you don't have to share the information with someone else. You can do this just privately. The more you question your subconscious mind, the more it will give you answers, and the greater likelihood the answers that pop to mind are actually the truth. And you tend to know when you've hit the right button.
Mhm.
You know, you have that inner knowing. First of all, it will throw out garbage at you. So you just have to look at each idea. So you ask yourself, why am I doing this to myself? Am I trying to punish myself? Am I trying to get out of doing something? Am I trying to get some benefit? You know, when you're sick, you get extra attention from those around you. When you're sick, you don't have to take responsibility for other things that are going on in your life. It's a way to abdicate responsibility. So I looked at all of that. I also used the Inner Talk subliminal self-help program for accelerated healing and well-being. I played the program all night, every night for 15 months. And I'll tell you why the 15 months. I just played it. I played it nonstop. So there are affirmations in this that go along the lines of my body heals itself. My body works perfectly. Now, if I'd said that to myself consciously at that time, I would have said, no, it doesn't.
Mhm.
I can't walk. I can't walk up the stairs. My body is not working perfectly. But this affirmation was just going in subconsciously. It was bypassing all of the conscious defense mechanisms. And so the affirmations were constantly, I can heal myself, my body can heal itself, it works perfectly. I played this program all night, every night for 15 months. I went searching for cures, and I'm totally open to alternative health. You know, first of all, I went to the doctor, I got my meds. So that gave me some relief. I got my diagnosis, so I knew what I was working with. So I'm not saying ignore your doctors at all, but you know, so get your immediate help. And then I went searching for alternatives. And there were lots of things I came across that said that they helped. I didn't want the condition helped. I wanted it gone, Ruthie. I wanted a total cure. Then I heard of a supplement, CMO. You can buy CMO at Amazon today, but at the time it was pretty new. Dr. Sands, who had discovered it, was alive still. He was based in San Diego, California. I was nursing my son at the time, so I contacted his office to see if there were any contraindications to the CMO and me nursing, and I was told that was fine. Another interesting aspect of this, Ruthie, you know, sometimes your inner self does hold answers and it's worth paying attention to. But I'm vegan.
Mhm.
At the time, I was vegetarian. My family is Sikh, but I've got lots of Hindu family as well, and
Mhm.
Hindus were around us all the time. My family didn't eat
Mhm.
beef. So with my oldest son, I had a craving for chicken when I was pregnant, and I ate chicken. I used to have chicken as a child, and the craving was too strong. With my youngest son, I had a craving for
Mhm.
beef. I had rarely ever had beef. When I had it, it was at school and it was nasty.
Mhm.
It was absolutely nasty. But I had this craving for beef. I would look at ads, you know, the grocery store ads for beef, and I'd be drooling at them. And it was weird because never wanted it. I did have a McDonald's beef burger once, and my husband was amazed that I just scoffed this down.
Uh-huh.
But the interesting part of all of this, after that one beef burger, I tried to divert it to other things. I ate fish. I had other things. I wouldn't eat the beef again. But with this supplement that I had come across, the CMO, according to Dr. Sands, it was an extract of
Mm.
beef, which I just found interesting. Now, that's not going to hold for everybody else that tried CMO. What appealed to me when I heard of CMO was the high success rate it was having. So they said that something like 90% of the people who used it experienced at least 70% relief from it. There was talk about people being cured of their arthritis using it. Cure, that was a key word for me. I wanted this thing totally gone. So I took the CMO. I took 2 capsules twice a day for 2 weeks. Prior to trying this, I had tried to come off my RA meds and I had been totally unsuccessful. Every time I tried, within a couple of days, I would have a flare up. This joint or that joint would swell, there would be pain, I couldn't move. So I tried several times and been unable to. I tried over this 15-month period. So with everything else that I was doing, I still wasn't successful with it. I took the CMO, as I said, 2 pills twice a day for 2 weeks, came off my meds. A week after I finished this course, the pain in my shoulder came back. I took my meds morning, night, and morning. The pain went away. Week afterwards, the pain came back. I took the meds twice. Week after that, the pain came back. I took the med once. I've not had RA meds for 25
Oh,
years now.
wow.
Absolutely. My inflammation numbers were still high. They remained high until I turned vegan, which was about 8 years ago. So once I stopped dairy, my inflammation numbers were so high that the doc wanted to put me on
Oh,
something,
wow.
you know, because it was significant, and I paid attention to it because you hear about inflammation and what that can mean. So it wasn't until I turned vegan that my inflammation numbers came all the way to normal, healthy. But so I did this three-pronged approach to curing myself of the RA. Now, if CMO is the magic bullet, everyone out there is going to be curing themselves of RA. I tend to think I put in the 3 elements. I did the work, I uncovered what I believed to be a causal factor for why I had created this illness. I supercharged my subconscious mind with affirmations, that inner deep belief that I could heal myself. And so I believe the CMO worked a little bit like a placebo for me. I needed that extra push
Mm-hmm.
just to get me over the finish line. So that's how I see it. And I believe that this can hold for lots of illnesses. The placebo effect shows us very clearly that we can heal ourselves. It's about activating it in the best possible way. And as I said, I've not had any RA meds. I've not had any joint issues for 25, 26 years
Oh,
now.
that's amazing. Wow, that's very inspiring to hear. And I hope that, for anybody who's listening who is struggling with medical issues, that this story might give you some hope that, recovery is possible, and, and symptoms don't have to be life sentences. Um, Ravinder, as we wrap up for today, I wanted to. Now, I have two remaining questions for you. One is if you could just go over your list of offerings and where people can find you.
To learn more about me, the best place is to go to my website, which is simply ravindertaylor.com. That's R-A-V for Victor, I-N-D for dog, E-R, Ravinder at ravindertaylor.com. To learn about Inner Talk, you'll find the link on my website. You can go to innertalk.com, click on the link there to go to the Inner Talk store, go to the search box, put in anything you like. We've got around 500 different titles. You have to be very specific about your goals, but take a search for whatever it is that is important to you. So you can get that, as I said, either at ravindertaylor.com or by going to
Great.
innertalk.com. I'm on Facebook and Instagram as well. I love hearing from people. I find all of these interviews, they're a two-way street, all the interactions I have with other people. I'm constantly learning from other people as well. So if you try these techniques, you have good results with them, please email me. You can email me simply at ravinder@ravindertaylor.com. I would love to hear from you or, connect on Facebook and Instagram, share your stories because, as I said, we are part of somebody else's story as well. The more we share, the more we can help other people.
Yes, thank you so much. And of course, all of these links will be in the show notes as well. Um, and my last question for you is if there's anything that you want the audience, the listeners to take away, any, last message that you have for the audience that you would like them to hear, especially people who are struggling with sleep or anxiety or just dealing with all the stress of modern life and everything going on in the world today.
I would say that you are more powerful than you are aware of. You have more control over your life. If you're dealing with difficult situations, you have lots of places that you can help yourself, but you have to help yourself. You have to claim that power. You have to learn some of these techniques. That's why the subtitle to my book, Mind Training, is The Science of Self-Empowerment. It's about being empowered. It's about taking these tools and techniques and making them your own. So the most important thing is you are more powerful than you have any idea of, but you have to claim that power. You have to take that power. So that responsibility is up to you. You can get into the driver's seat of your life if you choose, or you can remain in the passenger seat. It takes action on your part to create a better life for yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ravinder. It was really such an honor and such a joy talking with you and learning from you. You certainly gave me what to think about, and I'm sure that our listeners will also, that you've given them what to think about as well. And I really appreciate your energy and your sharing, your wisdom. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me on, Ruthie. I very, very much enjoyed it. I think it encompasses what my life is about. So thank you for allowing me to share with you.
Thank you so much. Be well. If you enjoyed this conversation, I invite you to like, share with family and friends, subscribe to this podcast to help it grow, or leave feedback, whether online or offline. You're also welcome to join the Nale Yoga community on WhatsApp for the most recent updates on new podcast episodes and local events. Wishing you a wonderful rest of your day or night, wherever you are in the world, and I hope to meet you back here again soon. Be well.